Hello there and welcome back to the Sweet Natural Living channel. It's been quite a while since my last video. I'm sitting here by the fireplace, just had breakfast, and I want to share some thoughts around a recent experience that I had with a job that turned out to be not vegan, basically. Um, can a job be vegan or non-vegan? Most people probably not even really think about something like that. Vegan is typically associated with a diet, it's based on what you eat, but actually being vegan is much more than what you eat. It's essentially a lifestyle where you do your best to avoid the exploitation of animals and animal suffering. So I had a job and I had to quit basically because it wasn't lining up with my core values, and I want to talk about that today and delve into that topic with you guys. Stay tuned. So if you're hungry for videos, of course, I just want to tell you first that I do have another channel, right? You probably know that by now, but please do check out the other channel. There's a link in the description. Maybe I'll put it here too if it's possible. But check that out because I post videos there more regularly than here on Sweet Natural Living now. My other channel is about running and fitness, mostly. Yeah, if you like my videos, you should head over there. I will still post occasionally here on Sweet Natural Living though. So yeah, the story is basically this. I was looking for a job that, allowed me to be very flexible with my hours and to work on my own time, etc. Because I do already have several jobs, of course. I'm a guitar teacher. I coached a local track in a running club, kids and teenagers. I have a coaching business online. If you haven't checked it out, the link is also in the description. MGJ Coaching, where I create training plans for people, etc. And I make YouTube videos. So I do a fair few different things, but I was in need of some extra quick cash, as you are sometimes. And I found this new job that I was like, well, maybe I'll just do that for a little while. Sounds like a fun job. And the job was Foodora. You might have heard about it, Foodora. They have these bike couriers all around big cities, especially here in Scandinavia, I guess, where people deliver food from restaurants to customers. My job was not on a bike, it was with a car. So I basically delivered food around my local town, which is not a city, but it's a small town. And the job itself was super fun, I must say. I had a blast doing it. It was so much fun. It was almost like a video game or something where you would get the order on your app, go to a restaurant, pick up the food, and then find the customer, look at the map, and there would be directions like, go behind the red garage and there's a door under the stairs or whatever, down the stairs. Things like that. It would be almost like a treasure hunt or something like that. I quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed driving and it was just fun driving around delivering food. It was satisfying, very satisfying job. And very flexible, I could set my own hours, etc. So anyway, I did that for a few weeks, and I already knew the first time for example, I stepped into McDonald's, which is part of this thing, and I was picking up McDonald's food for people. I was like, this feels kind of weird. I'm going into McDonald's picking up food as a vegan. It didn't feel right, but I guess I sort of denied. I was choosing to be in denial for a little while because I needed the extra money and I had the job, and I was just like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna consider the ethical dilemma or the big elephant in the room, so to speak. So I just went ahead with it. For 3-4 weeks I did that, and and then I started actually considering the ethical dilemma, you know, which is quite obvious, because as a driver then for Foodora, I am literally putting myself directly into the chain of profits, let's call it that, profiting from animal slavery, right? And non-vegans, when they hear that animal slavery, they kind of get turned off, I guess, sometimes. But it's exactly what it is. It's literally animal slavery. We hold animals as our slaves, and we exploit them, and we kill them eventually, and then we create products of it, and people buy it and eat it, right? And there are several points along the way where you make money off that process, and I guess I just put myself in the middle there as a middleman. That's what I started realizing, that I'm actually a middleman, you know, because I'm facilitating the delivery of the food from, say, McDonald's or any other restaurant, really, from them to the customer, and I'm taking my cut. And I realized that that is, by definition, literally blood money. That's what it is, right? It's blood money. It's the death and suffering of those animals that is providing part of the money anyway, right? So in there, I was making money off you know, the food business, which included the paying for animals to be killed just to eat them, and also the milk industry, which of course is really horrible. So it was very strange. Suddenly I sort of realized that, you know what, this was quite obvious. I kind of knew it all along, but then I started realizing it more, and I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. This doesn't align with my core values. And so I decided to quit, and now I quit. So it was like a month of Foodora fun. I had a lot of fun. I made the money that I needed, really. And now it's over, and that's okay. And I learned a lot from it based on this ethical dilemma that showed up. And I feel like, you know, there's the question of whether something is vegan or not, or a job is vegan or not. It's quite complex, right? Because there's indirect contribution, and then there's direct contribution, and there's a lot of gray area here. So, for example, like, let's say what if you buy a product that's actually completely free from animal products and not tested on animals or anything like that? You buy it, but the company you buy it from also sell something else which has animal products in it, or they own another company which sells animal products, profits from animal products. Is it then wrong for you to buy that product because you're essentially then paying money to the company, and that strengthens the company, which again makes them continue selling their other products? You get the idea. Is that non-vegan? I mean, is that okay or not? It's very difficult to say. And then, of course, on the other hand, there's direct, you know, businesses. Like, if you work as a slaughter, you are directly killing the animal. But even if you're not actually killing it, if you're working at a business that literally makes money by selling the product that they bought from the slaughter, and then again you are directly contributing again. So there's indirect and there's direct. And I want to set one thing clear here with regarding being vegan or in this situation, and that is, a lot of times I meet people and I get the feeling that when I tell them that I'm vegan, they sort of see it as a club, or, you know, where you go like, you know what, I'm gonna go vegan. And then after you go vegan, you start researching, what does it mean to be a vegan? What are the rules of being vegan? And that's sort of how people look at it, because people ask me things like, are you allowed to eat that? Are you allowed to eat that? And that shows me that they're looking at it from the wrong angle. It's not that I chose to be vegan and then after choosing that, I looked into what's allowed and what's not allowed, and I'm essentially following this diet or following this sort of religion where you are allowed to do certain things. That's not how it works. It's the other way around. I looked at the actions that I'm taking and the consequences of those actions, and I realized that eating meat, buying animal products is directly paying for and contributing to the suffering of all these animals, right? The innocent animals, they don't need to be exploited in that way. They don't need to be enslaved in that way. It's horrible, the food industry. I'm not even going to start justifying that. I'm sure you can figure that out on your own, or maybe we'll talk about it in another video, exactly what's going on. But it's really bad. It doesn't need to be that way. Humans do not need to eat animal products. Science have been pretty clear on that. We are not obliged to eat animal products to be healthy, and so in fact we should avoid it. So we're essentially just doing it for our taste pleasure, and for our, and some of the products are convenient, like leather is very strong and very durable, so there's a convenience factor and there's a cultural factor to it. But we don't need to do it. There are alternatives, and so essentially we're just doing it because we want to and because it's our cultural heritage. And that is not okay with me, to let those animals suffer in that way. I don't want to do that. So that choice means that I'm a vegan. We call that a vegan. We put a label on it. We put a label on that sort of choice, and we call it being vegan. But people have been making this kind of choice probably for thousands of years. I'm sure there was people thousands of years ago who realized the same thing and made the same kind of choice, and they weren't called vegan. They didn't have a name for it like that. Maybe they just said, I don't want to contribute to killing animals, so there's no label on it, but that's what I want. And so I guess my point here is that being vegan is not a club that you join and then figure out what the rules are and try to follow them as best you can. It's a choice based on not wanting to contribute to the exploitation of animals. That's essentially what it is. And then we call that a vegan. So because otherwise it would be kind of superficial, I feel like, just to be so obsessed about staying vegan all the time. If it was just like a club or a religion that you were just like, I choose to do this for no reason, and then look into the consequences or what it means to be vegan anyway. I'm gonna put in another log. And so, is your job vegan? I mean, that's difficult to figure out. In my case, I realized it was definitely not vegan. I was definitely taking my cut of the blood money, of the animal slavery money, putting myself in there as a middleman, and I had to quit. I didn't need necessarily to continue that job indefinitely, but I felt like once a week doing that job, it would be, good. It would be fun, most of all. I actually enjoyed the job a lot. So I would like to continue, but I realized I couldn't. And that's the same thing that happened when I was first going vegetarian back in like 2008, and eventually vegan even more so in 2011, where I sort of started considering it. And once I started considering it, the ball was rolling, and there was a point of no return where I was just like, if I don't go through with this now, I am consciously choosing to buy, let's say, cheese. I'm consciously choosing to buy cheese, and I'm putting my own taste pleasure above the suffering, the horrible suffering of the animals, in the animal industry. I mean, again, I'm just not going to get into the details, but it's just so bad, it's not worth it. If it was truly for survival, it would be a different situation, but it's not for survival. We don't need animal products, even though we're able to extract nutrients from it. There are valuable nutrients in animal products, but that's just too big of a discussion right now. So there are alternatives. Let's just say you don't need to be eating animal products. So once I realized that, it was just like I I can't do that. My integrity was at stake. I couldn't consciously choose to do that. And it was the same thing now. I couldn't consciously continue to take money and contribute to this industry, even though it was seemingly not that bad, right? Just delivering food. People are gonna buy food at McDonald's anyway, right? I'm just delivering it. But if you look a little closer, you realize it's actually not like that. You're actually contributing. So in terms of indirect jobs, I don't know. There's probably endless examples of ways we indirectly contribute to animal products. Things that we buy and we maybe don't even know that there's actually somehow, some way, exploitation of animals in the process of making that product. Well, in that situation, until we know, we are ignorant, right? And sometimes we choose ignorance, like I did kind of for the first weeks. I sort of chose not to look into it, even though I kind of knew it was in the gray area. But then I looked into it and I realized it wasn't in the gray area, and I quit. And we have to allow ourselves some slack in terms of allowing our own evolution, of course. So I do think that if you realize that you've been doing something for a while that wasn't actually aligning with your core values and was actually exploiting animals and you didn't want to do that, well then it's okay. You don't have to be angry at yourself for having done that, but you can change. You can now take a choice to change. And sometimes it's not maybe easy to do that just overnight. Maybe there are financial consequences, big life changes that need to happen in order for you to, live the way you want to live. But then, taking steps towards going in that direction is going to be good. The same goes for someone who's vegetarian and they want to go vegan. Just start looking into it. Start looking into it. Start researching it. Start feeling it. Start thinking about it, and see if you can actually make a choice there. You're already making a choice, but is it conscious or unconscious? Once it becomes conscious, then you can actually choose, well, what do I set highest? Do I prioritize my own taste pleasure, for example, in the case of, say, cheese, or do I prioritize animal suffering? That's a personal choice. And the reason it's so hard to make that choice, the reason it's so difficult to go through with it, something like, suppose I was in a different situation. Suppose I wasn't actually doing all these other jobs, my real jobs really, which is, my coaching and all this stuff. Suppose that I just found my only job, Foodora, and I was just super happy finally making enough money and having a job I enjoyed, and then I realized this. That would make it a much more difficult choice, right? Because it's a choice where you go like, I realized that I'm contributing to animal suffering. I don't want to do that. But if I quit, I'm literally sacrificing, to some extent, my life right now. I won't have any money, for example, and I won't be able to do what I want to do, and the struggle continues, right? And for me, it wasn't like that because I had my other income sources and I didn't rely too heavily on this job. And I actually had made the money I needed, even though it was blood money. Done is done. And I got to the point where I started realizing this after a few weeks, right? But still, it was still the situation for me where I was like, if I continue this job, it's enjoyable and I will continue to make some extra money, which is always nice. So why, that would be good. But now I'm faced with this ethical dilemma, and then you literally have to put the animals before yourself. And that's when it gets even more complex. In some situations, maybe if you're forced into that situation and you do absolutely need the money, is it ever okay? I'm not saying it's okay, I'm not saying it's not okay. I'm just saying there's a dilemma there that we need to consider. Is it ever okay to do that? Like if you take it back to slavery days, right? Like back in the day when they were during slavery in the US, for example. Would it ever be okay for someone to say, you know what, I'm broke, I don't have a job, but I'm offered a job somehow in the slave business. I don't know how that works, but suppose you're in the sugar business, and essentially the workers are the slaves and they're not paid, and you're thinking, oh, I have an opening there in the sugar business. Should I take the job? Should I take my cut from the sugar money, even though it's literally exploiting the slaves? Like, is that ever okay? Is it okay for me to force someone else to have a horrible life? Like, who's worse off, right? Is the slave worse off, or are you worse off? Is the animal dying to become a hamburger? Is that worse, or is it worse that you're broke right now? I would say definitely the animal becoming a hamburger is worse. I'd rather be broke than become a hamburger, if you know what I mean. So that's where the dilemma is that simple, really. It should be, or at least that's how it was for me in this situation. Is the extra money and the fun job really worth animals dying? Hell no, not even close, right? If I was completely broke and I was desperately needing this job, it becomes a little bit more of a difficult choice. But I think still, for me, I'd rather be broke, and I don't know, I would rather live on the street struggling to survive. I mean, this is completely unrealistic. I wouldn't probably ever get, I don't think you can get to that situation. There's always options to make money in different ways and to live differently. But suppose you were in that situation, would you, I would rather be living on the street struggling and knowing that I got my integrity intact, right? Knowing that I'm not making an animal die just so I can have a more comfortable life. That's not okay with me. But that's a personal choice, of course, that everyone has to make for themselves. So I made my choice, and I'm very happy about it, and I'm now making the video about it because I feel like it was an important topic to consider. I'm okay with people around me making different choices that I am, even if they are not aligning with my choices. So people around me are eating meat. There are animal products around me all the time, of course, as for most of us. And I'm not someone who's gonna start attacking people for their choices and trying to convince them of my choices. But if you are tuning in to my video, or if you are tuning into my thoughts, and if you want to know, of course, then I'm going to tell you how I look at things. And this is one of the things that I'm passionate about, even though I'm not really a big advocate of veganism, in the sense that I'm not spending a lot of time promoting it. That's not really where my passion lies. I'm more into the health aspect of things, and now lately the running and the fitness aspect. Remember my running channel, check it out. So that's really my focus area. But the ethical or the moral foundation of my life, to a large extent, is based on what we could call veganism then, which is basically just not contributing to the slavery of animals. Not exploiting animals and people, for that matter. That's another thing, right? Like ethical clothing, I don't even know. Is this ethical clothing? I have to really research that. I haven't really done that. So I probably am in some way, shape or form contributing to bad things in the world. I mean, we all are, with or without knowing. The question is, do you know? And once you know, the choice is simple. And so get in the know, research, and figure out what you want to do and make your choices. Okay? That's all I'm saying. And that's all. The fire is burning, as fire does. It's very nice now in November in Norway to be able to sit here sometimes in the morning as I'm eating my breakfast. I had oatmeal with apple and banana on top, and sunflower seeds and sugar. That's my usual breakfast these days. Maybe we'll do a what I eat in a day video at some point, somewhat soon. I'll try and do it soon. I hope you're doing well. If you watched the video to the end, that's awesome. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, of course. leave a comment, tell me what you think about this topic. Do you have similar experience maybe with a job that you realized wasn't vegan? Tell me about it. Share this video with your friends, and yeah, I don't say this often, but I guess I'm gonna say it now. Go vegan. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around. Bye bye.